afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and you are here for the December 2017. That's right, December. It is the month. We are here. It's the holiday season, and this is the holiday edition of the PracticeMaster Virtual User Group meeting from Attorney Computer Systems. Today, we're going to talk about calendar access and how to control that. Mary Jo will take that topic, and I'm going to talk about the preview window and show you some things that you may not have known were there. Without further ado, I am going to press a series of magic buttons. We don't just have magic buttons here, we have series of magic buttons. I'm going to get us into PracticeMaster, where Mary Jo can tell us all about calendar access.
The funnest topic of the month,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So I have clients all the time wanting to have certain users, so certain staff members, be restricted from seeing other people's calendars, whether it's, associates not being able to see partners' calendars or, support staff not being able to see them, whatever the reason is. And maybe it's not their public calendar. Maybe you want everybody to be able to see that. But if you put private entries on the calendar, we want to restrict certain people from seeing those private entries. We don't need the whole office to know that you're going to your doctor's appointment or your haircut or any of those kinds of things. So to control that, it's really not in PracticeMaster. It's actually in system configuration. And most people, most users, do not have rights to get into system configuration if you've set up your access profiles with the best practices. The only people that we really want to be able to access system configuration are most likely managers or people that will be higher up on the access levels. Because if everybody could get in here, everybody could change it and see it anyway. So if you're a manager, or if you do have those level of rights to get in here, system configuration is where we're going to set that to say which user can see whose calendar. So what we do is we go into system configuration and we go underneath the users, the little driver's license here, and we choose a user, whoever it is that we want off of the list that we want to restrict those rights for. Now, a lot of times when we're adding a new user, we set those rights up right then. But sometimes things change over time, and maybe somebody that was restricted before now can see something. So this is where we can come in and change it, or you can set it up on initial setup of a new user. So we're just going to pick Kathy, and we'll say that we wanted to change Kathy's calendar rights. Right here in about the center of our screen on the user tab is a calendar rights button. And when we click on that, this tells me on this first tab who has rights to this calendar, which means who has rights to Kathy's calendar, who is allowed to see her calendar. You can come in and say, allow all users to edit the public, and if I check that, it's going to put a check mark in there for everyone. If I don't want all users to see that, I can change that, and I can just pick and choose by double-clicking, and we can do that. Then we get into our private. Are they allowed to browse private or edit private? If we want to start going into that and give users rights to that, we can, again, either start clicking that line and saying, yes, they can browse, but maybe they can't edit. Or, Daniel can browse and edit. You can choose exactly what levels that they have. Same thing if I didn't have the all users checked, I could say, yes, this person cannot see the public or the private or the edit anything. They're just nothing. They can't do any rights to this calendar here. If you noticed when I clicked the all users and allowed it, the check mark changed. It's no longer a bold check mark. It's a smaller regular type check mark. And what that will mean is if I say that all users have rights to Kathy's calendar, if I go into any other user on the rights to other calendars, these will already be checked off for me for the ones that I've said can come into Kathy's. That way I don't have to check off, who has rights again to her calendar from other perspectives. So this is what this does. It just kind of gets a smaller check mark, and when you see those, you'll see you can't uncheck them somewhere else because somebody has allowed all users onto that calendar. The next tab that we have here are the rights to other calendars. So this is saying whose calendar can Kathy see? And now it's the same thing. We can do the edit public, the browse private, or the edit private. One trick I have learned, if you want to select all users on this screen, we can just highlight the top one, hit our shift key, and hit the last user on that list. And then we can say that they can edit the public, and it will fill them all in, browse, or edit the private. And that will fill them all in. So if you know that everybody is going to have rights to other calendars, so Kathy's allowed to have rights to everybody else's calendar, you don't have to click, 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 click. We can just hit the shift key and we can select all users. Now that also works if I do control. So I could hit control and I could pick and choose which users I want, and then I could take off or add certain things on that. So, okay. So once you've saved the entries for Kathy, so she has rights to other calendars or rights to this calendar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this be everyone again just so that I can have it all selected, and we'll go ahead and add them all back in and say okay. We do need to save the user, and once that's saved, those calendar rights are now in place for Kathy. Now let's go to another user for a minute. Let's go to Cheryl and look at her calendar rights. And now if we look at rights to other calendars, see how Kathy's check mark is already filled in, and it's that non-bold check mark. Because on Kathy's calendar, I had said that all users were able to see her calendar. So this is already there. It already says that she can do that. And again, I can't uncheck it here if I click on it because I've said that on Kathy's perspective that she has that right. If I want to change that and remove it, when you have a small check mark, you need to go into that user and you have to uncheck the all and then pick and choose. That will take it off. So that's another thing that comes up a lot. Somebody wants to remove it and they don't know how to get that small non-bolded check mark out. And again, on this level for Cheryl, I could pick who has rights to her calendar and who has rights to which calendar she has rights to. Once you set that up for everyone, again, you could come in and change that at any time, but you would come in and you would save each user, and then those rights would then push out so that they can see those PracticeMaster calendars. Now, we did not talk about when we sync and the different things with Outlook. There might be a few other steps with that to make sure things go out, and that's not for this webinar, but this is strictly for PracticeMaster's calendar viewing, and that's where you find those settings.
Right. It doesn't have anything to do with the exchange rights
right.
you would get from Microsoft Outlook and Exchange.
Right. This is just PracticeMaster's calendar rights. Can they see the calendar in PracticeMaster or not?
Right.
So,
and one thing I want to point out is everybody can see the public. There is no way to say somebody can't see the public entries for somebody.
Yes, that's what the first column was
for. No, that's edit public.
Oh, edit public. I got you thinking browse public. I see what you're saying.
Everybody can browse. It's a matter of whether you can edit the public and then whether you can even see the private. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something that always surprises me that people don't know. I'll be connected to somebody, or I'll be standing over their shoulder showing them something, and I'll say, well, don't print it, just go into preview, and they'll say something like, oh, but it's always so small in there. And that tells me that they don't really understand certain buttons that show up in the preview window. So we're going to take a look at that. I'm going to take you into conflict search because this is a good place to illustrate this point. And we'll do a quick conflict search for Larson, who happens to be a client, so we're going to find all sorts of conflicts. And this is what I'm talking about, the preview, okay? Now, we all know that we can select a printer or go to Dropbox or print to a file, and OK is going to do that. But preview gives you a place to look at the report on your screen before you would print it or save it to a file. And so here, what somebody might say if they were looking at this screen, they might say, oh, but I don't like having to scroll to the right or scroll to the left to see the whole thing. Well, that's because they don't understand what these buttons down here mean. For instance, this zoom button controls how much of the report we're seeing on our screen. So if I go to, oh, let's say 100%, I'm going to get to see the whole thing. But if I go to 115, it's a little bit too big, so I might come down here to Other and change it to 110, and there, look at that. That's perfect. So there are two different ways to determine what size. One is a percentage, 100% being as big as it would be on a printed page. One is by font size. So sometimes people will say, well, I want a smaller font or a bigger font. So there's a smaller font, there's an even smaller font, there's an even smaller font. Now, if I was going to do it by font size, I'd keep going. Maybe 13 is what I'm looking for. 13. Yep, 13 is perfect, okay? Now, here's my biggie. I've never seen anyone click this until I tell them to do it. So even after I show them, or even if they know how to do this, they'll come in here, they'll change it to 13, or maybe they'll decide that 110% is what they want, and then they'll say, okay. And then they'll come back later and it'll be all small, and they'll have to come in here and they'll have to say 110 again. When if they would just check this box, then every time they came into preview until they changed it, let's go back into preview, it would stick at 110%. So the big thing is get it the way you want it, and then most importantly, check that silly box that says make it the default. I don't have to check it now because it already is the default. This one is a little deceiving, probably isn't the right word. That's a little too harsh. It's not always right. Now, let's say it that way. See, I clicked fit to window and look what it did. Don't ask me why sometimes fit to window works for some people and doesn't work for other people. I tend to find that if you can find that magic spot this way by using other and finding the exact right percentage and then making it the default, that's the best bet. But every once in a while, I'll click on fit to window and it'll actually fit in the window. This doesn't. This is way too small for the window, so I'm not quite sure why that works sometimes and doesn't work other times. But the point is, let's get it the right way, make it the default, and then never have to come in here again to make it big. Now, what are all these other things down here? Well, let's take a look. First off, close. That gets me out of here. Second off, there's something called stop. Well, what's the difference between stop and close? Well, I'm going to click preview. The problem is I don't have anything that's going to take a long time to put on the screen. You've seen it before, though. You've seen page 1 of, and then there's nothing there because it hasn't quite gotten done doing the report. So it doesn't say page 1 of, let's say 175 until it's done with page 175 on your run of draft statements. And so let's say you've come in here and it's on page 1 of 40 and 50 and then 60, and you know it's going to go all the way to 220. Clicking stop, and again, it's not active for me now because it's already done with the report, stops that assembly of the report. It doesn't clear the screen, and there's a lot of confusion between that. People think stop is going to stop the thing and get me out of here. Oh, I didn't mean to come in here. No, all that stop does is it says, hey, I want you to stop spending time trying to get to the end of this report because this isn't the right report or I've already found what I want. So stop, if you're in the middle, will come up with a terminate printing box, and you'll have a yes or no option, and you'll say yes. And then you'll end up with page 1 of 40 or page 1 of 50, but it's not done. It didn't get done. And so it'll still leave you here because it doesn't know whether you really ultimately wanted to get out or you just wanted to stop because you already had what you needed. So stop means stop assembling, and close means get me out. Okay. Now here's a biggie. I'll tell somebody, hey, do a transaction file list, and then we'll look for the word pickle. And they're like, well, that's going to be 150 pages. I don't have time to read the whole thing. And so what they're not understanding is that they can search in a report in the viewer. And clicking search causes this little bar here to open up, where I can type something like, well, Larson's not a good example. Let's type letter. I don't know if I have it in here. Yeah, when I searched for letter, but we'll try that letter. Yep, there we go, letter. Mary Jo's giving me that. You doubted me, look. And so what this does is it lets you type a word, go to the first occurrence or the last occurrence or the next occurrence. Now, if you're at the top, first and next are the same. If you're at the bottom, last and previous are this. Well, that's not true. Anyways, first will take you to the first occurrence in the entire document. Last will take you to the last occurrence in the entire document. Next will take you to the next based on where you currently are. So I'm currently here. Previous will take you to the previous based again on where you currently are. Okay. So I can pull up a 2,000-page report and then search for specific things. and I don't have to do it manually. I just use this search function, and then close search closes it back up and re-enables this button down here to get that back.
Something else, Paul, and I don't know if you mentioned this in the last one or not too, but a lot of times it might not even be a word. Maybe you're looking for primary timekeeper 1, and so if you go to the, like, you search for Y semicolon 1 or Y colon 1, you can actually find all the instances that way too. Or if you're on an amount, you're looking for an amount, and you know that something right before it is like S and then $sign or something.
Exactly. So, for instance, if I did type Y colon and said first, it takes me to the first occurrence of Y colon. It does not have to be a word. Very, very good.
Now that's good and bad, because you may have that Y colon somewhere else that's not primary, but it's definitely going to narrow it way down as opposed to something else. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I'm going to close this up. Print's pretty self-explanatory. You decided to come into preview. Now you're ready to print, and so you end up. You press the print button to get back to where you can print this on the printer as well. Bless you, Mary Jo. Now, drill down. Almost every report in tabs, AP, GL, Trust, PracticeMaster has some sort of drill down. And what you're drilling down to has a lot to do with what you click on. For instance, you see how it says contact name is Larson Michael. If I click that one, I'm going to, well, I went to the client file. Yep, exactly. And here, if I click on, if I actually go down in this report and find an actual contact, well, we won't do that. Here's a journal. If I click on Larson here, I'm going to the journal record. And if I go back here and I click on, let me search for letter, because that's going to take me to a document name. Is there? There we go. Here is a document, and if I click on this, it'll actually open that document. And this happens to be a Word document, so it takes me to Word and opens up that document. So this drill down capability is extremely helpful in getting to what it is that you want to find. It takes you straight to the contact record, straight to the journal record, straight to the calendar record or document management record or people record here, and shows you exactly what's on that screen where it found that occurrence or where that report is reporting that data from. And it's not just the conflict of interest search that has this capability. Virtually every report in PracticeMaster tabs, AP, GL, and Trust. In GL, you can click on a journal entry and go to that journal entry in the system as opposed to on the report. In AP, you can click on an invoice and go to the invoice record. In tabs, you can be in draft bill mode and click on a transaction and actually go in and change the amount of time or change the description and come back and have changed the bills. So during the billing edit process, you can actually go into the records, make your changes, come back, and they're changed. Now I know this is the PracticeMaster virtual user group meeting, but I'm going to skip over to tabs just to show you that concept. Bear with me for 1 second while I get back into the demo version of tabs. And I'm going to run draft bills. And I'm going to, once I get in there and preview, I am going to go make an edit in a transaction because I want to show you this last button called refresh. So here I am, and I'm going to change this to plan and prepare for pre-trial. It wasn't a trial, it was a pre-trial. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to load the transaction. I'm going to change this to pre-trial. I'm going to save it. I'm going to get out. And when I go back, it has not changed. Why not? Because I have not hit yet the refresh button. Once I hit refresh, it will go out and look at the underlying data and redo this bill, and now it says pretrial. Why does it do that? Well, I'm looking at 51 pages of bills. You might be looking at 782 pages of bills. You might have noticed that my 51 pages of bill took a couple of seconds to redraw. So therefore, we can extrapolate that 782 pages of bills might take 20 or 30 seconds to rebill. So if I was going to change all of these transactions, I would do it all and then hit refresh, because I don't want to wait 20 or 30 seconds between this one and changing this one just to make sure that this one changed the way I want it. Does that make sense? It merely delays the process of redrawing, because that can sometimes be a lengthy process, but you can always hit refresh immediately after making a change, and it will show you that. It's just that you're going to have to wait for it to redraw the entire report, or at least up to the point that you're currently viewing. By that I mean, if I did have 782 pages of bills and I hit refresh, but I was only on page 3, it would pretty quickly refresh, because it's only got to get to page 3 before it shows me the changes I made. So those are your buttons that a lot of people don't know about in the preview window. You can really make this a much more pleasant experience once you understand how to interact with the drill down and the refresh, once you understand how to search so you can get quickly to the information you're looking for in the report, once you understand how to get the zoom set so that it's going to show you the report in a way that's legible and always legible, and once you understand that finally, if you just press this button here, it'll print the report exactly the way it would have if you just sent it to the printer to begin with. And that's all we have on that. Next month, we are going to talk about renaming contacts, what to do when somebody's name changes, because you just can't change that contact ID. We'll show you how to do it. And Mary Jo's going to take that, and I'm going to talk about virtual fields and why they're important and why sometimes you may care about them being in a certain file in PracticeMaster. It wouldn't, of course, be a live event at Attorney Computer Systems if I didn't take you to our website to show you that if you go to Attorney Computer Systems with an emphasis on that last S in the word systems, right there, no, not the M, there, took me a while, attorneycomputersystems.com. If you either click on the word videos or hover over it, I'm going to click on it, it'll take you to a place that lists every video title that we have, and we have 6 of them. We have our 4 live events. You're currently in the PracticeMaster Virtual User Group meeting. We also have VUGs, or Virtual User Group meetings, for tabs and World Docs. And we also have a live event every month that we call our Coffee Pot webinars, where I take something that adds value, an add-on product or some sort of thing that adds value to PracticeMaster or tabs or World Docs, and go into what type of value that adds. We also have our 2 pre-recorded video series. We have Mary Jo's e-bites, which are little 3-4 minute videos where we take something really cool and that can be explained very concisely and very quickly, and we record a little 3 or 4 minute video on it. And Mary Jo records 3 of those every month, 1 on tabs, 1 on PracticeMaster, 1 on World Docs. And then we have our longer format Paul and Mary Jo show, where either I or Mary Jo will take a much broader topic and take a deep dive that can take 10, 15, 20 minutes to go into all the intricacies of a more broad topic that takes a little longer to explain. If you click on any of these, I'll click on the one we're in right now, PracticeMaster Virtual User Group Meeting, you'll be taken to a brief description of what the video title is. If it's a live event, information on what the next one is, what we're covering, what you do to register. We have 2 links. They're both the same links, but one shows the link and one doesn't. So click one of these to register. And then as you scroll down, you'll find pre-recorded versions of everything we did before. Now, the one that we're currently in is this one. So it's currently in post-production because it hasn't been put on the website yet, or not done recording it yet. But in a couple days or a few days, this will show up on our website, and this will be replaced with the video link. And as you scroll down, you'll see videos of everything else we've ever done in the PracticeMaster Virtual User Group meeting. So these are here for you to take advantage of, and there are a lot of them. We have almost 1,000 videos on our site, all about tabs, PracticeMaster, and World Docs. You can scroll through them and browse, or you can search for something specific like emailing statements and get directly to the information that you want to find on our video series. That is it for today. Everybody have a good rest of the day, rest of the month, and of course, a wonderful holiday, and we will see you next year. Thanks. Bye-bye.